Toastmasters, please welcome Paul with his speech entitled The Forecast, A Demon of a Storm over Melbourne. The Forecast, A Demon of a Storm over Melbourne, Paul Mahoney.
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. A couple of years ago, I drove a colleague of mine home after the staff Christmas party, and we chatted on the way home about lots of things, including our pets. We own a toy poodle named Bubbles, and he owned a couple of Bichon Frise. So I dropped him off and went on. A couple of months later, we were both leaving work at the same time and waiting in the lifts. And I said to Brendan, "How are the dogs going?" And he looked at me a bit puzzled and said, "But I'm a Tiger supporter." I thought, boy, isn't football entrenched in Melbourne? Is there anyone here who does not think that football's a big deal in Melbourne? I think we all agree it is a big deal. And it's big business. And that's the key term, it is business. I spoke here a few weeks ago about the subject of consumerism. And I believe consumerism applies to sport, including football. And just to recap, consumerism is about convincing people to buy things they don't really need. And in Australia, the big businessmen are fully entrenched in football. Just for example, think about the late Kerry Packer. Think about Paul.avi. Were they interested in football? You bet. Their television stations bid huge amounts for the broadcasting rights to earn huge amounts in advertising. Are they passionate about the game? Personally, I suspect not. I don't think Rupert Murdoch sits there worrying about how Carlton or Melbourne or Richmond might perform on the weekend. He's counting his dollars from the advertising revenue. But he's more than happy to see people traipsing along week after week and screaming for their team. They've been convinced to be passionate about football. Andrew Demetriou, he's the top administrator of a game. I'd love to see Andrew Demetriou one day wearing something other than a suit and a tie, and talking about the greater Western Sydney market, and this market segment, and that market segment. Hey, Andrew, give us a break. It's a game. Relax. It's big business, ladies and gentlemen. And this is to do with social conditioning. In Melbourne in particular, we're encouraged to be passionate about this game. And don't get me wrong, I've been passionate about my club, Melbourne. And I still enjoy the game. But there's much more important things out there. But let's think about the social conditioning. Men, women and children accept that they jump on the train on weekends wearing a scarf, maybe a cap, maybe even their club's football jumper, and they get out there and they scream their lungs out as if their life and everyone else's life depended on it. It's an education sitting there just watching men go red and their veins pop out. It's frightening. And my friends go with it. But VB doesn't hurt. Hey, take a VB to the footy. And that's another example of conditioning. We hear General Peter Cosgrove telling us to raise a glass for the Anzacs. Oh gee, it's VB, it's alcohol. We have an alcohol problem with the young. I don't know, it worries me a little bit. But this is the way we've been conditioned. And is it a good thing? Well, think of the things that we're missing by focusing so much on football, or any other sport for that matter. It's great to have them there as a release. But let's not get too passionate about it. But what are we missing? Well, there's an issue of physical fitness. People go along to the MCG on a Saturday and they sit there for a couple of hours screaming. That's the only exercise they do, maybe getting out of their seat occasionally, waving their arms about. Then they'll maybe walk to the station, that's good, but then they'll go home and sit down and watch the replay. Then Sunday morning they might watch the highlights. Then they might watch a live broadcast later on. So is this good? I don't think so. And what else is missing? Well, what's more meaningful that they could be doing? There's lots of causes out there. In Melbourne we have a great lifestyle, but there's a lot of people out there suffering, a lot of different creatures suffering. For example, and this is only one, you can all find millions of causes out there, but I remember Four Corners a few months ago had a story on what they call the witch children of Nigeria. And what happens in Nigeria is that religious leaders will declare a child, could be an infant, could be 5 years old, could be 12, they'll declare that child a witch. And the parents believe that child is a witch, and they are ostracised. They are left to fend for themselves. The only way to save that child is for the religious leader to exorcise the demons. But guess what? That comes at a cost. So these children, if they're not exorcised, are just left wandering the streets. A young English guy who was working in the oil industry saw what was happening, how he has taken on that cause and created a charity and supports orphanages where these children come in and are taught that they are valuable. They are valuable, they do mean something. So that's just one example. I think about that when I see 100,000 people at the MCG, not every week of course, but 80, 90,000 people. What else is out there that we could be doing? And don't get me wrong, it's great to have a release, but let's not think it's so important. And it does have its good points as well. Football or other sports might encourage people to participate, to actually get out there and play the game. These kids playing Auskick on weekends probably wouldn't be doing it if they didn't have their heroes in the AFL. So it has its good points, I do believe so. So in conclusion, I'd just like to say to you to think about it and to think about what else you could be doing. And in the words of Mahatma Gandhi, be the change that you want to see in the world. And don't just accept the world for the way it is, just because it is that way. Think about what's wrong in the world and what you can do to change it. I'm Toastmaster.